Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
Let me tell you, we have a new star. A star is born, Elon.
Pumped up on Mars, juice, and ketamine.
He is the Thomas Edison plus of our age.
Probably his whole life is from a position of insecurity. I feel for the guy.
I would say 98% really appreciate what he does, but those 2% that are nasty, they are out there in full force.
We are meant for great things in the United States of America, and Elon reminds us of that.
We don't have a fourth branch of government called Elon Musk.
Welcome to Elon Inc., Bloomberg's weekly podcast about Elon Musk. It's Tuesday, March 11th. I'm your host, David Papadopoulos. So this is what a bad week looks like. I mean, a very, very bad week for Elon. Not only has Tesla stock continued to crater, it dropped 15% on Monday alone, but he seems to be losing on all fronts right now. X was hit by sporadic outages Monday that Elon blamed on hackers. A SpaceX rocket blow-up rained debris and grounded flights at airports in Florida. Doge is running into more and more roadblocks from both the courts and from within the Trump administration itself. Musk, through it all, is putting on a brave face, setting his sights on bigger and bolder things for Doge to cut from the budget. But has he backed himself into a corner here? To discuss all this, we have our trusty Muskologists, Max Chafkin and Dana Hull. Hello to you both.
Hey, David.
Dana, how are you?
Good. Good to be here.
Okay, and then later on in the episode, Bloomberg stocks reporter Esha Day will join us to talk all about Tesla's freefall. Okay, Dana, so let's start by going back a little bit to the tail end of last week. For those who may have missed it, there was a cabinet meeting in Washington that Musk attended, and it got a little sporty. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so what was interesting is that this cabinet meeting was not on the president's daily schedule, but Sean Duffy, the transportation secretary, posted on X that he was like headed into a cabinet meeting. And so we were like, wait, what? There's a cabinet meeting? And then the New York Times reported that the things got pretty spicy. Apparently, there was like a testy exchange between Musk and Marco Rubio about cuts at the Department of State. And then, Musk was basically saying that these guys weren't cutting fast enough or deep enough. And then there was sort of pushback from the cabinets. Duffy was saying, you want me to fire all these air traffic controllers and I've got planes falling out of the sky. And the New York Times reported that Trump was kind of like watching these exchanges ping pong back and forth, like almost like he was watching a tennis match. And then the kind of upshot is that Trump then basically said that Doge is like an advisor, but that the deep cuts are, in the province of the cabinet secretary. So there's like a little bit of a power struggle going on. Obviously, I wasn't at the meeting. Would love a readout if you were. But it's just like the first sign that there is tension between Musk and the cabinet secretaries about how these agencies are basically being overtaken by Doge.
Yeah, and just to add one thing, Trump, after this meeting, did a truth, which is, the Truth Social version of a tweet.
Of an eeks.
An eeks. And he essentially said, we're not going to use a hatchet, we're going to use a scalpel, which feels like a implicit rebuke or correction or something to Elon Musk. Of course, in the next paragraph, he talked all about how great a job Elon Musk is doing. And Musk, when he posted this, he only posted a portion of the truth. He posted the second paragraph, not the one about the scalpel.
It's fascinating that we've gone from Musk wielding a chainsaw at CPAC to Trump saying, we're not going to use a hatchet, we're going to use a scalpel. So like, what's next? Like tweezers? Like we're going downstream in terms of like the size and scope of the implement here.
Clearly here, Max, hard to interpret this any other way. Even though the reporting from inside the room that we saw in the Times and in other places, mostly the Times, did make it clear that Musk certainly counterpunched and was effective to a degree, but it's really hard to interpret it any other way than it was a defeat and a setback for his endeavor.
I think Musk has struggled to some extent to transition from the kind of realities of campaigning, and even in the transition, when there weren't these Senate confirmed appointees taking responsibility for these agencies. So like what's changed now is you have Marco Rubio in charge of the Department of State, Sean Duffy in charge of the Department of Transportation. If a plane crashes tomorrow, God forbid, Sean Duffy is the one who's going to have to answer questions, not Elon Musk, no matter what Elon Musk does, no matter how, what his influence is. And that is creating pressure on these cabinet appointees, which is now a counterweight to Elon Musk. And I think so. And I think that's what we're seeing. This was inevitable. This was going to happen. And here we are. It is happening because, of course, none of these cabinet secretaries, much as they agree maybe in principle with the idea of cutting government spending, none of them want their departments to be cut too much. And they're going to be concerned, especially given Musk's, penchant for willy-nilly, cut now, ask questions later.
So, Dana, it strikes me that what we're seeing a little bit here is the classic Musk of putting my head down. I'm just effing going for it. Balls to the wall. To hell with everyone. We're just going to go full speed ahead and just see what the hell comes out of it all. That may work to a certain degree at Tesla, at X, and at other places. But right, as Max is getting at here, the political reality of trying to do that in Washington, it's just a different dynamic.
Yeah, but it's also making him dig in even more because he's saying things like, well, it's like the idea is that the quote unquote deep state is squealing and all of the Democrats who are in on this are, of course, they're responding, and that he's fabricated this whole thing in his mind where, the media and the NGOs and government employees and federal workers and contractors and George Soros are all in on this massive grift that he alone is untangling for the world. But it is fundamentally a misunderstanding of how bureaucracy works and how, many of these people are lifelong civil servants.
Yeah, so we actually have him, Dana, in his own words. Here he is speaking on Fox Business with Larry Kudlow. Let's listen to that.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean...
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient.
Okay, so Max, I know I said at the top that Musk is putting a brave face on it all, but man, those were some deep sighs.
He does this and that.
Or you think it's just for? You think it's
no? I think it's both a performance, but I think it is also genuine, right? Obviously, he is struggling to run his companies and do the job that he's doing, as his comments indicate. I do think that there are ways in which the kind of the sort of practical ins and outs of what he's trying to do in government and also the kind of impression, the branding of what he's trying to do conflicts with who he is. His thing in the past has been putting himself almost deliberately into these crises and sleeping on the floor with dramatically, right?
Yep.
But now suddenly this performance is coming off a little bit differently, partly because what he's doing is just fundamentally not going to be as popular as building an awesome, super fast, super cool electric car, or whatever, and or taking the planet to Mars. Being really good at cutting parts of the federal budget, even if you're awesome at it, even if there's none of the sort of negative press, even if you don't accidentally fire, a bunch of nuclear engineers or air traffic controllers, I still think it's just inherently not going to be as cool. And then when he admits, yeah, it's tough. If I'm an investor in one of these other companies, this is going to give me a feeling that is not great. It's going to confirm some of maybe my worst fears about where this thing is leading, where Musk is at once distracted so that he's not spending as much time with the companies as he once did, obviously, but also eroding his brand. And I'm just sort of watching my investments lose value day by day.
Yeah. So, Dana, those sighs bring me to a question that I meant to and failed to ask last week, so I will ask you it now. Elon Musk, knowing what he knows now, had he known this on, say June the 1st of last year, or October the 1st of last year, or November 5th, would he say yes to doing it all over again?
Yes. I mean, this is why he donated to Trump's campaign and he pitched this idea. Like Elon Musk has always been driven by two goals, getting to Mars and getting rid of regulation. Those that is what is driving him. Maybe he didn't expect it to be so bumpy. Maybe he expected more people to like applaud his efforts and not to get the kind of pushback that he's getting. I mean, you're seeing all of these protests at the Tesla showrooms. But no, I mean, I think that, this is like he proposed this idea. There is a reason why he donated to the campaign.
But so you don't think he feels like in hindsight it was just a bridge too far?
No, because he loves to this is sort of who he is. Like, and I've been through so many cycles of this with Elon before. And it's like every time we get to like a new quote unquote crisis, everyone's like, oh my God, this is it. But like we've been through this countless times. In 2018, when he tried to like fake the buyout of going private, and when he bought Twitter, like everyone was like, oh my God, like this is the end. He's going to be so distracted. And then you're telling
me he actually loves this. This is his. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He creates chaos on purpose.
Right. Okay.
That's how he thrives.
Okay. We need to move on from Washington and go to X, which was down for users at different parts of the day yesterday. Max, tell us what transpired.
X, Twitter, has long had issues with uptime. This is a site that gets at times like huge amounts of traffic and, over the years, like has gone down numerous times. There have also been numerous incidents like this where there's some sort of denial of service attack or cyber attack. The site went down yesterday, I should say. There were sort of intermittent outages over a period of time across a number of countries. I was not able to use it. Me, I'm a big X user. I was not able to get on.
No X's from you.
No X's. I was not able to get on for hours yesterday. So from my own personal experience,
is that why you're in such a crappy mood today?
Yeah, I didn't get my fix. It seemed like a particularly bad sort of crash or whatever.
The handiwork of the Ukrainians.
He
Musk
blamed,
says.
yeah, well, he said, he didn't exactly say that. He said there were IP addresses in Ukraine. Of course, what he's trying to do is suggest that somehow Zelensky, in addition to like not saying thank you or something, set the hackers on Twitter. Certainly possible, although there is a hacking group that has taken responsibility. They're a sort of pro-Palestinian aligned hacker collective. So again, I don't think we know yet who did it, but of course it's not good for business. And when you layer in all of the other things that we're going to be talking about, it doesn't necessarily communicate command or having their stuff together.
No. Dana, meanwhile, a SpaceX rocket launch late last week was quite a show, but I suppose for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, it launched okay, but then it blew apart, and then the debris kind of like closed air travel in Florida for a little while. I mean, I think, in SpaceX's defense, they would argue that every time they have a mistake, they learn from it, they get better, they iterate, they improve on things. Like, you don't make advances in science and technology without a lot of experimentation. But Musk has always been someone who is spinning a lot of plates. And as Max and I wrote earlier this year, he is running 6 companies and now he's got a 7th, which is running the government. And it's only a matter of time before like one of those plates comes crashing down. So how long he can keep them all spinning is anyone's guess. But we've sort of been in these crisis moments before.
So Max, Dana points out that SpaceX and Musk love to learn and iterate from these blowups, and they kind of, to a certain extent, almost even enjoy them in the sense that they then get to autopsy the whole thing and go on. That's fine. Learning and iterating is one thing, but raining so much debris down that airports are shut down for a while, is that okay? Is that normal?
No, and it's not. And so obviously, yes, it's true that like they're not going to get to Mars or even get this spacecraft working on one launch. By design, these things are not going to work out. They're not launching any real cargo yet for this very reason. I believe there were some.
What rocket was this, by the way?
This was a Starship rocket. This is the spacecraft that Elon Musk sees as the Mars vehicle. For now, though, SpaceX has a contract to land. This is a lunar landing craft for the moon mission, right? But Musk's that's the contract that they have right now.
The moon is for losers.
That's
man.
what Elon Musk says. But the challenge here is that, well, first of all, one challenge is there are a lot of people who don't think the moon is for losers, and those people include many of the other companies who have contracts to send people and parts and so on to the moon. There is going to be political opposition. There already is political opposition to any effort to sort of like, as Musk has sort of hinted, like cancel the Artemis program, which is the moon program, and replace it with a Mars program. The other day, Trump actually brought up Mars and said, well, it's not that big a priority, which I would say is in stark contrast to how Elon Musk sees it. These launches have scientific and engineering value, but they also are political. And we learned that during the campaign trail when Trump over and over and over again talked about how beautiful it was, how amazing the arms they lifted. You know, we all heard this over and over again. Dan and I heard it in person in Madison Square Garden. Trump loves
like cradling a baby.
Like cradling a baby. Like Trump loves to talk about it. And of course, he loves it because it is like a perfect illustration of Elon Musk's competence and mastery. And so when we see the opposite, it doesn't convey that. And it makes it all the harder for Elon Musk to argue that the United States should bet on this technology, which is a new technology, which is not totally figured out, which could fail, right? Like, so yes, the failures are by design, but they're not good.
As we wrap this segment here, Max, I'll just say that Musk, like I, knows that stocks go to the moon, starships go to Mars. Come on.
I don't totally know what that means, but okay.
All right. Okay, so we're now joined by stocks reporter Esha Day. Hello, Esha. Welcome back.
Hello.
So I told you to come back on when you had something interesting to talk about, and man, do you. So the Tesla, the stock, has been in free fall, notwithstanding a little bit of a bump back up today. Hit us to start with some superlatives that capture the move in recent days.
Sure. Let me absolutely spoil you here. So Tesla shares are down 45% last I checked for the year. It's really volatile today, but let's go with 45%. And then it's down 53% from the all-time high that it touched on December 17th. So in the process, the stock has now lost more than $816 billion from its market valuation. So currently...
And at its peak, its market value was like
1.5 trillion, yes. And currently it's worth around 700 billion and change, yes.
And I believe it is the biggest decliner in the S&P 500 index since the inauguration, right?
Yes, you completely snatched the words out of my mouth. It is the worst decliner on the S&P 500 right now by a decent margin, I would say.
So I get the sense that even the bulls out there, the Tesla perma bulls, are starting to get a bit nervous. What are you hearing?
Yes, that's a great way to put it. The perma bulls, some of them extremely vocal and ardent Tesla fans, I would say, who absolutely believe in this kind of long-term vision of Tesla becoming this pioneer in the fully self-driving vehicle, the robotaxi, and a much more sophisticated real-life AI application such as a humanoid robot and all that. Even those people, when I talk to them for in a very long time, and I have been covering this stock for a while now, this is the first time that I'm hearing them being a little antsy. They're not sure. They're still on the sidelines despite what seems like a 53% discount. So clearly these people think, and they say this in as many words, that they think there's more to go in this decline. And why is that? The reason is simple. Like, the boom that we saw after the election, it was really not driven by anything fundamental. So now that all that speculative frenzy has been taken out of the stock, people are starting to look at the fundamentals. So where do fundamentals stand compared to, say, November of last year? They look weaker. So there's no reason. They look
terrible, right? I mean, in Europe, in parts of the U.S., sales are way down. The brand has been damaged with a significant swath of consumers out there. But Dana, Trump came out last night. In truth, I believe it was last night, and he said he's going to go out himself and buy a Tesla to show support for his man Musk. Is this it? This is going to turn the stock around?
Well, I mean, it's remarkable that the president of the United States is saying this, and his exact quote on Truth is, "I'm going to buy a brand new Tesla tomorrow morning," meaning today, Tuesday morning,
as we speak,
as a show of confidence and support for Elon Musk, a truly great American. So, first of all, I don't see how this works in practice. Like, are we supposed to believe that the president is going to like waltz into some showroom in Washington, D.C. and like roll out with the Cybertruck or something? Like, I just don't really, I scrutinize this very concept.
I could see him rocking a Cybertruck.
But secondly, if the whole issue is brand erosion, and Tesla's longtime consumers being very upset that Musk has thrown in his lot with Trump, the idea that Trump is now going to buy a Tesla is just going to further cement Tesla as a brand into like a MAGA mobile, which, Max and I wrote about like 2 years ago. So I don't see how it helps Elon at all. I just think it's not good.
This is a key thing. And I guess my first reaction was when Trump said he was going to go buy one. I was like, one? You're going to buy one Tesla? How about 300,000, buddy? And I guess my question for you, Max, is, and it gets back to something it's been nagging for a while for me, which is for every 5 or 10 or 20 buyers Musk loses in Blue America, is there some offset in Red America, some of any kind? And is Trump perhaps nudging those red buyers to get up off the couch and go buy?
Yes. I want to remind people would be Trump's second Cybertruck. He actually got one from a podcaster in 2024. I believe we talked about this. It was like, it had like MAGA stickers on it or something. Anyway, yeah, it was like a campaign stunt. I don't know if he still has it, but it could be a second one, could be a Trump fleet. You could have Eric and Don Jr. both driving Cybertrucks, I suppose. I do think there is a universe of sort of hardcore Trump supporter who has already embraced Elon Musk. We've talked about this a lot. Like, it's not like there's no sort of like MAGA buyer coalition, but like Dan is saying, this doesn't really help because Musk is already completely Trump coded.
I guess the pushback on that would be that, yes, that MAGA crowd that loves Musk or likes Musk buys the stock. Right, has been buying the stock, and that was part of Esha, right? The big pop we saw last year in the stock. Can you get them through something like a Truth like this to go
doing that.
from buying the stock to then no, we need you to do more. We need you to buy the vehicle itself.
I just think that, listen, the economy is really uncertain right now. People are losing their jobs. People are seeing their retirement savings go to hell. They don't know if they're going to have Social Security and Medicare. Like, this is not the time when people make a big purchase, like buying a car. There is a reason why Q1 sales are going to be crappy. And it's like, it's just buying a car is a huge purchase. It's often the largest purchase that someone makes outside of housing or like a college education. So I just don't think you're seeing people like rushing to the showroom to buy a vehicle. And also, like, Tesla's lineup, it's super old. Like, Tesla made a big thing of how they're now, selling the refreshed Model Y. So some people are waiting for the Model Y, but there's like the new Model Y, but there's like a ton of inventory on the Tesla website right now. And yeah, I don't think that I don't think you're going to see like a ton of people moving to buy a car right now with so much uncertainty in the wider economy.
So I actually have, Esha, a theory that came to me the other day on the Model Y refresh. It was an epiphany I had as I was walking down Park Avenue, and I saw a Cybertruck on one road and I saw an old Model Y in the other. And I thought, man, the problem with this refresh is possible buyers of the new Model Y, because it looks distinct and unique and new and different than the old ones, they lose plausible deniability. You cannot own it and slap the bumper sticker on it and say, I bought this before I knew Elon was crazy. It's just, no, everyone's like, oh man, that's a brand new car. So the theory is that rather than helping them turn sales around, it could deepen their slump. What say you? Hit me with it.
It's a possibility, right?
Oh, jeez. That's it? That's all I get?
Here's what I'll say. So it definitely seems like, when I talk to like bullish Tesla investors or analysts, a lot of them will push back on this idea of damage to the brand. But when
okay, so why? What do they say? When they push back and they say you're overstating it.
Yes. They think it's just being overstated by the media. It's just being hyped. But my point is...
So when they see sales down 70% in some places, they think that's a blip that'll go away?
They say that it's not entirely clear what exactly is going on. Also, Europe and like smaller Europe key markets, like, let's first see what's happening in US, because that's kind of the litmus test, right? Like what's happening in the US market, which we do not know yet. But my point is the risk of brand damage has to be real enough that it pushed Trump to tweet last night, right? Like it's kind of an acknowledgement of this brand damage that they clearly are seeing happening.
Even MAGA people, even the hardcore Donald Trump people, do not like people who throw Nazi salutes or salutes that look Nazi adjacent, right? Musk's antics have seemed, I think, even fairly extreme for some conservatives. And like the idea that there's no brand damage just seems like almost disconnected from reality. I mean, like we're seeing in those European sales numbers that Esha just mentioned, serious brand damage. And we're seeing it in the China sales numbers. We're seeing it, in fact, in some of the U.S. sales numbers. And even leaving that aside, like these protests in front of Tesla dealerships are real.
They seem to be almost a daily thing now.
And it's so interesting because Musk has responded to this, and we should say, by essentially saying it's all a big conspiracy, right? This is like Act Blue, some Democratic activists.
And this is what Trump was saying as well in his Truth last night.
Right. And I think this is a case where actually, like, and he's, of course, blaming the media, but I think this is really a case where the media has been behind the ball on this, where, like, the media has not fully realized, and I think a lot of Wall Street has not fully realized how significant the opinion shift is, and how, like, this has become the way that people who are mad at Trump express that anger at Trump. There's nowhere to protest Trump right now. Like, I guess you could go to the White House or something.
Right.
But there are opportunities, every day, anytime you see a Cybertruck, right, or whatever, to express your displeasure. And like Musk has made this choice. We talked about it on this podcast, and bears have been worried about this for years, that he was going to polarize the brand. And I think it would have been less of an issue if Trump had lost the election, but Trump did not lose the election. Yeah. It also would have been less of an issue if Musk had not taken a job within the Trump administration. It would have been less of an issue if he had taken a less controversial job in the administration. But he has run headlong into this controversy, and the electorate is reacting as you'd expect.
Dana, one of those bulls that Esha had mentioned earlier, Dan Ives at Wedbush, called this a moment of truth for Musk and Tesla. And in that Fox Business interview yesterday, when asked about how he was running Tesla and his other companies, his response was, with great difficulty. Or I guess I wonder, is he even running them at all? And given what it's going through, that can't cause or give investors a whole lot of confidence as they watch the stock crater.
Right. And the board has been completely silent on Musk since the election. I mean, they have not put out any kind of statement. There's no clear number 2 or COO. The bench is like not deep. Like, who runs the company day to day? It's like there's not like a Gwen Shotwell at Tesla. So yeah, no, I think it's big concerning. I'm going to be super curious to see what the proxy says this time around in terms of risk factors.
Tell us more about that proxy. Remind us what exactly that is.
Well, every year, like, publicly traded companies file proxies about, it basically lists out like what shareholder resolutions are going to be discussed at the shareholder meeting. It's a good way to look at how many pledged shares Elon Musk has. And sometimes they lay out new risk factors. And a lot of times companies, like, they hide stuff in the proxy. The proxy drops on like Good Friday, a day that the market is closed. It's always really deep reading. I will be reading it. I'm just sort of curious too to see about like Tesla's board. Remember, Joe Gebbia, the Airbnb co-founder who is on Tesla's board, is also working with Doge. So it's not just Elon who's Doge focused. It's like another board member as well.
Yeah. So Esha, Dana says she's seen this movie many times, having covered Musk over the years. You've been covering Tesla for how long now?
Since 2016. So
2016, for a while.
Yeah.
A decade, basically.
2 decades in Tesla.
Right. No, in dog years, in Doge years, 40, 50 years.
Yes,
easy.
I agree.
So I guess I just wonder if you also think, now this is just like a sell-off we've seen before. The stock's going to start ripping and bounce back soon. Or did the election and the boom it initially created and now the bust, did it just fundamentally change the company and change the stock?
That's an interesting question. Tesla has always been a really volatile stock. It had always, it's kind of in market parlance, it's almost always called the OG meme stock in many ways. Like it was a meme stock, a cult stock, even before that phenomenon.
Okay.
Really,
on that point, do you hear estimates from analysts on what % of the valuation is just meme stock valuation, which is hard to separate from the Musk phenomenon? And then what part is just, hey, valuing this business right now and going forward? Do people have estimates?
See, it's more of an art than science, of course. When you try to understand, what part of it is the key man risk or tied to Musk and Musk's antics and stuff like that. However, there are estimates, there are serious analysts on Wall Street who kind of try to understand, if not how much is tied to Musk, which is a really abstract concept, but at least try to understand how much of the valuation is really focused on the future or future growth or future growth potential. So right now, the stock has moved so much. I haven't seen any very recent numbers, but around the time when it was like $1 trillion valuation, I have seen people say that anywhere between $200 to $400 billion was for the auto business and the auto business future growth as well, and everything else was robotaxi and AI and essentially the Musk dream premium, as they would call it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Tesla's valuation compared to car companies that have that sell a similar volume, it's like many times greater. It is like if Tesla were just a car company, it would be worth way, way less, even having fallen, 50% over the last couple of months. It's always been a bit of a leap of faith, and maybe I'm being a little bit generous here, to value Tesla's robotaxi business or its Optimus business in any way, because there is no business there. It doesn't actually exist. Wall Street bid up the stock after the election. We sort of touched on this at times, but there was no clear reason why. There is nothing Trump can do. He cannot wave a magic wand and give Tesla a robotaxi business.
The funny thing is that Esha had shared a couple reports this morning from bulls. And both of them, as they expressed jitters and concern, one of the things they both drew comfort from was the robotaxi dream. At Morgan Stanley, they're waiting for the big Austin robotaxi unveil in the summer. Maybe Team Elon Inc. will go down.
Can I just say, if you've lost Dan Ives, Dan Ives is the QAnon shaman to Tesla fandom. He is maybe I'm overstating it, but he is a mega bull.
You might be.
If he is a mildly concerned, that is a huge, that is a wow.
We have, he called it, right? I think that was in top of his report this morning. This is a moment of truth for Elon and Tesla.
Yeah, Max is right. Dan
You're right, he is the QAnon shaman?
He does have very colorful outfits as well.
Esha Day, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Max, Dana.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
This episode was produced by Stacey Wong. Anna Masarakis is our editor and Rehan Harmansi our senior editor. Blake Maples handles engineering and Dave Purcell fact checks. Our supervising producer is Magnus Henriksen. The Elon Inc. theme is written and performed by Taka Yasuzawa and Alex Sugiura. Brendan Francis Newnham is our executive producer, and Sage Bauman is the head of Bloomberg Podcasts. A big thanks to our supporters, Joel Weber and Brad Stone. I'm David Papadopoulos. If you have a minute, rate and review our show. It'll help other listeners find us. See you next week.